there, and thanks for joining. Today we're going to go over customer aging and getting this information out of the system easily. So if we go over to receivables, there's a few areas in Acumatica where we can pull up customer aging records. So the first one and most traditional one, we have a number of aging reports. So AR aged past due, it's a favorite of mine. Here we can show details or summary. We can pick our company or branch if we've set up our company that way, where we have different branches and different companies and different branches underneath. We can filter by customer class if we need to. We can filter by customer and even filter by project. This is a new field. And then this is our aging date to where Acumatica will calculate. If we went back a couple of months, not only would it show the aging a couple of months ago, but it also would consider payments that currently aren't there yet. So let's run this report. This gives you an idea. It's grouped by customer, and then here are all the invoices underneath. And if you need to, you can drill down and look at the invoice itself. So this is the invoice. And you could also look, there's a prepayment here. We can take a look at the prepayment. In this scenario, we took a payment from a customer, but you'll notice we didn't quite apply it to anything. So basically sit down here with a $76,000 balance. We can apply it right now if we need to, but we won't. But you can go page by page. You can send this to someone. So Acumatica's integrated email allows you to send it. So sometimes it's useful to send this out to the customer, assuming we filtered by a specific customer, of course. But we could send this to somebody in accounts receivable in the company to follow up, and that kind of thing. The other thing we could do is we can convert this report to PDF simply by hitting the button. You can change the report if you'd like so that it always goes in PDF. That's part of the edit report option here. And one of the new things in 2019 is the ability to group. So this now looks at the different levels in the report and allows you to group and filter by. So you can drill down and click on these areas and actually see them and jump right into them. Okay. We can also export this to Excel if we need to. So that's our aging report. Again, there's a number of different reports. These are based on aging buckets that are past due. These are based on aging buckets that are outstanding. One of the other ways you can look up customers is you can go to receivables, and we have these inquiry screens. Customer summary, for example, gives us all of our customers and their ending balance. Now there's a number of columns here. You can move these things around. If you're not working with multi-currency, you may choose to highlight these columns and simply remove them. So this gives you an idea of your beginning balance and your ending balance of the last activity period. What's your period to date sales are. Now you can pick a period here if you need to. It'll give you data by that period. You can filter by customer class, and you can do things like sort in these grids. So I can see Toy Star America owes the most amount of money. Now, the other thing you can do here is you can double click and drill down into that particular customer. This brings up the customer detail screen. So, and that's also here in the menu right above the customer summary. So the customer detail screen shows the open documents for this particular customer. So what does that mean to be open? That means anything with a balance greater than 0. Now, if I come over here and I check Show All Documents, it'll also show historic invoices and payments that have been applied and now have a 0 balance. So this is helpful for being able to see past payments and stuff. So one of the things I like to do here is, all throughout Acumatica, you notice we have filters. So one of the things I like to do is I like to add different types. So I like to see my payments in a different bucket. So I'll add this and I'll give it a name. So this shows all payments, but maybe the other thing I want to do is show my invoices here. So this is really helpful. So what I'll do is I'll copy this and show invoices, etc. And then I'll change this top one to be invoice. And I'm going to do a couple other ones here. So we'll say plus the type equals credit memos, or needs to be an or because it's not going to be equal to all these different types at once, or debit memos. We don't do a lot of those, but we'll put it in there anyway. And we'll save it. And then we'll apply it. Now I have two different tabs. And so I can go in here and find all my payments, all my invoices. So now I have the customer on the phone, and I want to find out when the last payment I received from them. I can do that. So this is really helpful, creating these filters. And again, you can share these filters with other people in the company and make them your default. There's a few other fields here. I can filter by period. So if I do that, notice nothing comes up. All of these payments were historic, so they didn't come up. I'll take that out. I can also pick different AR accounts. So in Acumatica, you can have multiple accounts receivable accounts or sub-accounts. So if you wanted to break it down, you could do that. Again, I'm showing all documents, but if I just want to see outstanding, this will show me outstanding. This will show me any unreleased. So that's on hold or balance documents that just haven't been released yet. So that's that option. And then in Acumatica, when you look at a customer, we have a parent-child relationship that you can set up. So if you just take a look at Star America, and we go into bill settings, you can define parent accounts to children accounts. And that allows you to consolidate balances, consolidate statements. You can share their credit terms if you want to, which is really nice. But when we go back here, if I include child accounts and I pick the parent customer, I'll see all the individual invoices for all the affiliate companies. So that's very helpful as well. So now for statements, if we just go back to the customer record, I'll show this being set up. So under bill settings, there's a couple of different things. So we have the ability to show what kind of statement type, open item or balance brought forward. So we can define that at the customer level. We also have these print and email settings. So if my intention is to email out statements and I want this customer to get an emailed statement every month, for example, then I would check this off. And I need to do this before I generate my statements. So we'll save that. The other thing we can do is define our statement cycle. So in Acumatica, you can have different statement cycles. So typically, most companies have one, but here's an example of an end of the month statement that goes out, so end of month. And you have a few options here. Do you want to print empty statements? Do you want to require the payments to be applied before the statement? Typically, we use our own aging buckets. So this is 1 to 10 days, 11 to 30. You can change these if you want, change the descriptions. But what you can do also is you can use financial periods if you want. That makes this all gray out. But most companies use these aging buckets. This would be current for filling this in. Okay. Some of these items are new. Our aging is based on the due date, not the document date. And here's our finance chart settings for this statement. Apply overdue charges, require overdue charges calculations before the statement. And here's the charge ID that's used. So this is the statement cycles. So if we go back and we look at this is set up, Toystar is set up for net 30. We are allowing the statement to be emailed. So let's exit out of this. and we open up our prepare statement screen. So this is preparing the statement for this date, but I'm going to go back a little bit. I'll go to September 30th. I don't want to go right up to today. So we'll check off our statement cycle. There's only one in the system, which is good. We'll process it for all our customers. Okay. This is the new 2019 status screen, which shows you what's been done, how many records. So in this case, it's just showing that we're processing one statement cycle. That's why it says one. Now in Acumatica, as soon as you prepare the statements, there's a few inquiry screens which are kind of nice. So you have a statement history summary, which when you select your statement, you can see, and if I go back a little bit, back to where we ran it, it'll show you when the statement was run. Now if I go back to the beginning for this database, you'll see all the different times the statement cycle was run, the number of documents that were generated, and you'll also see whether or not it was required to email them. Notice we don't have email set up on anything until the one customer, Toy Star, we just turned on. Now it says to email one, and it gives you percentages and all that. Now what you can also do here is you can look at the statement history details. So if we bring up the statement cycle, this doesn't just show the particular statement and the overall results of it. It shows all the individual customers and their statement balances, and when their statements were prepared on, what their overdue balance is, and whether or not they're set up for printing or email and that kind of thing. So that's very helpful as well. If we go back and we look at the customer statement history, this allows us to pick a customer and see all the statements that were run from the customer's perspective. So I can go back and see what the customer's balance was on each statement that was run, because this really is a moment in time when these statements were run. So it's very important to understand what the balance was when the statement was sent out, because customer's balance can be a moving target as you're doing transactions on an ongoing basis. This allows us to see what the balance was in that point in time. So, and what you can do is you can double click on this, and what you can do is you can highlight any of these and actually print these older statements. So if I come over here and I say print, I can now see what the statement looked like back on that statement cycle time. Now if we go back to receivables, under processes, we can go into, we already prepared the statements, now we can go to print statements. Now on the print statement screen, there's actions. So this shows all of the statements that need to be printed. And as we know from before, there are no customers that are set up to be printed. It said 0. But it said 1 for email. So if we go into this and say email, you'll see Toy Star is here. Now these screens are useful. You can put a message here for all the customers, but you can also schedule this. So while I'm going to go over here, I'm going to check this off and say process. Ideally, once you get your statements together, if you're not a fan of babysitting it, you can set this up, schedule it for the process right after it's prepared, and it'll automatically email out. But in this case, I'm going to say process. And again, if I look at my status screen, I can see this record was processed. Individual record, there's only one. Any warnings or errors would show up here. Now if I go to my all emails, you'll see the email that was generated for this particular customer. So Star America, Toy Star America. And this is the template that's being used. And notice under files, there's an attachment under this email that shows their statement. So this is the statement. It would have gotten emailed out to the customer. Our email engine is off on the demo site, which is why it's sitting here under the status of pending processing. So just bringing up email, if we go back to our customer detail screen and we bring up Toy Star, one of the other things we talked about is the ability to drill into the invoices. So you're on the phone, the customer, there's a discrepancy, they don't know, they never received this invoice, for example. If I go over to the actual invoice, I can email these out. Just like the statements, Acumatica's integrated email, I can do a couple of things here. I can say actions email invoice, and this is an automated email, which goes from the system email account. Or I can print it to the screen, and I can hit the send button. And the report itself, again, has a templated email, but you can come in here and change it. And you can write an email, and then your signature would come down here. Your signature is defined under user profile. And I can send it. Now, when I look at this invoice, if I open it back up again, what you see is these activities here. This shows the invoice I just emailed out to the customer. Now, if the customer, Bob, had replied, you'd also see their replies here. And I would get a notification of the reply in my inbox, and I could reply right from my Outlook inbox, for example. And the entire threaded conversation would show up here. So this is very useful if there's a dispute over an invoice. You have the ability to start off the email from here, print the report, hit the send button, and then start the entire history of the discussion right in here. You'll see it. This is very helpful for somebody following up, checking in on an invoice when somebody else was working on it prior, maybe they're on vacation. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Our contact information is at the end of the video. Thanks so much.